All right, let's take a look at another sign here. And for a change here, I want to actually not tell you what this sign is trying to describe, and I want to see if you can sort of pick up on what this sign is trying to say as I explain it. Let's start by looking at the top. 사용, 사용하다. This is a word or a noun or the verb form that shows up actually in a lot of signs. 사용하다 means 사용하다 means to use. And 사용 would just mean usage, the noun form of to use, which would be usage. And 방법 means way or method. And actually, now that I think about this, I always have little lessons ready to show you about where these particular grammar principles that are on this sign, where they appear in my lessons. Well, where does this appear in my lessons? Well, it actually appears on every page. I just thought of that now. You can see here it says well, how to study Korean, and in Korean, this 한국어를 공부하는 방법. This like if you translated it directly, it's the way or the method in which to study Korean. So it doesn't really translate exactly to how to study Korean, but that's one place where you'd find this 방법. Now we go back to the sign. So this is, as you can just understand already, this is the way to use this particular thing. Well, right now you don't really know what this particular thing is because it's a mystery in this video. Before I even start, let's take a look at my picture taking here. You can see it's actually a reflection. I tried to get the best picture possible. I'm sorry you can sort of see there's a tree back there, but this is the best I could do because it's kind of on a mirrory surface. So this is the best I could do. So how do I use this machine? Well, this first word here, 손잡이. This word's really interesting to me. It's the word 손 means hand, and 잡다, which is actually you can see here. So 손 means hand, and 잡다 means to hold or to grasp or something like that. To hold or grasp. And this is actually a noun that's sort of formed as a result of sort of mixing these two things together. And if you think of something that you hold with your hand, well, that's just a handle. So this 손잡이 is actually a handle. So a handle, and here's this verb here, 잡다. The base form of 잡다 the base form of this would actually be 잡다. Ta is removed, and this ya is added to it. And I'll tell you what that means in a second. But 잡다, we already know what that means, and it means to hold. So right away it says hold the handle, and this is the particle 를 to indicate that this is the object that I'm acting on. So hold the object. And well, what does this mean? ya. To say 손잡이를 잡으며. Why would I need to put this ya in there? Well, I actually talk about that in our lesson. And this ya or 음연사, which actually appears later on in the sign, sort of has the meaning of while, or one way that you could use it is as you were doing this particular thing, at the same time, and as this is progressing, and as you are doing this, you should do the next thing. So as you hold the handle, do this. Well, what is this? This verb here, the base form of this verb is 앉다. 앉다, and that means to sit. To sit. And 의자, if it's probably one of the first words you ever learn in Korean, it means chair. Chair. And this A indicates the location in which you would be sitting. So, well, the location in which you're sitting is the chair. So if you reread this whole sentence out, this says, as you hold the handle, and while that's happening, sit down in the chair. And I just want to mention here this nunda. There's many ways that you can conjugate verbs, and it all depends, and even adjectives, but this is a verb. There's many ways that you can conjugate things, and this is one particular way, which I refer to as the plain form in my lessons. I talk all about conjugations in lessons 4 and 5, and I get into the different ways that you can conjugate this in lesson 6. But this is the plain form, and you often see it, and this is actually also the plain form down here, and this is also the plain form down here, and this is also the plain form down here. The plain form, the addition is you either add this, which is the letter, this letter, which is this letter, and which is this letter, and which is this letter, and then ta. If the stem ends in a vowel, and in each case, the stem here is 시작하, and this is ям소시키, and so those are vowels. But in this case, the stem of this, and the stem is everything except for ta. the stem ends in a consonant. So if I want to add the plain form conjugation to anta, what I have to add is not this, but I have to add nunda. So that's what I see here. So if you're wondering why anta turns into anunda, well, this is actually a conjugation. You couldn't just put anta in here. That is the dictionary form of the verb, and that would be incorrect. You have to conjugate it some way. In everyday life, you don't really, or in everyday conversation, you don't normally, not sometimes you do, we don't normally say these plain forms in everyday conversation, but you could say it. But in science and stuff like that, it's very commonly used in science and in newspapers to use the plain form. So you would add nunda to this. So anyways, this next sentence here, par means feet or foot. Feet or foot. So par means foot. And pan, well, parpan is actually one word. And I want to break down why this means what it does by just sort of telling you what this would mean and then what this would mean. Well, par means foot. Pan refers to some sort of plate. And I don't mean a plate that you would eat your dinner on, but some sort of rectangular or square looking plate that you could use, and it depends on where it's being used, and it depends on what's coming before it, but it refers to that type of thing. And if you can imagine what pal and pan would be, well, it's some sort of plate or some sort of square, some sort of rectangular thing where you would put your foot. I guess you could refer to that as a pedal, but I don't want to really translate this to pedal. I'll just put pedal in quotation marks because it's not really a pedal. I feel like the Korean word for pedal would actually just be pedal. Pedal. That would be sort of I feel like most Korean people, if you ask them what a bike pedal is in Korean, I feel like most people would actually say pedal. But I guess you could say it like this. It's some sort of square plate or something like that where you put your foot. And when I say pedal, I mean, like as I said before, a pedal on a bike. So A here, again, this indicates the location in which you can put something or take something or touch something. So, and it's the same type of A that we see here. It's the place in which I will sit. Well, in this case, it's the place in which I will put my foot. Well, again, par means foot, so I already know what that means. Orida means to sort of put on. And not in terms of clothes, like you're not putting on clothes, but to sort of, I'll even translate it even better than that, to place on top of. On top of. That's the thing about English. By saying to put on, well, that could refer to a lot of things. I could say I put on clothes, and I could say I put something on the table, and they have very different meanings. In this case, orida, what it means is to sort of put something on something, in the sense of putting something on a table. Well, I don't have a table here, and I don't have something that I would normally put on a table. Of course, you wouldn't normally put your foot on the table. But what are you putting on? Well, you're putting your foot on, and where are you putting it? Well, you're putting it on the place, and this denotes the place, and it's the place of this foot square, which I'm calling a pedal in this video. Ko is sort of there, and this thing here, ko, and this thing here, they're both ways to sort of connect two ideas within a sentence. And ko is one way to sort of connect two ideas within a sentence, and is another way to connect two ideas within a sentence. As I said before, is a way to connect two ideas where you are doing the first thing, and at the same time you're doing the second thing. But ko, similar to it's joining these two clauses here, this clause and then the following clause, but it doesn't have the same meaning of this. In this situation, ko is you do this particular action, and then you do the next action. So you can sort of see how these would be different and why and how you'd use them in different situations. In this one, again, you'd use it if this is happening at the same time as this. In this one, you'd say this happens and then this happens. Okay, so I put my foot on the pedal. 천천히 means slowly. Slowly. And then this says 돌리면서 시작한다. Well, 시작한다 means to start. To start. And 시작하다 is the base form of this word, or the dictionary form of this word. And again, the reason why it's not 시작하다 but 시작한다 is because I am adding the plain form conjugation, and 시작하다 ends in a vowel, so I have to add nunda, or I have to add this, which I crossed out. I'm sorry, I have to add that to 시작하다. Maybe I'll just write the plain form, 시작하다. 시작하다. That's the base form of the word, and the stem of this word is just 시작하, because you remove the ta, and that's the stem. So I have to think about either adding this or adding this. Well, 시작하 ends in a vowel. Ha is, the last letter is a. So I don't add nunda, I add this to it. So it becomes 시작한다. Now, so far we've seen I put my foot on the pedal and I slowly start. Well, what am I going to start? Well, I have to start this verb here. And this verb, I want to spend a few minutes talking about what this would mean. There's sort of two things we could talk about. There's the verb 돌다, and that's not what I have here, and then I have the word, or the verb 돌리다. They look similar, and they actually have very similar meanings, and they're very confusing for foreigners learning Korean. 돌다 refers to the acting object, or the acting subject, the acting person in the sentence moving around something. So for example, if you were going to walk around the park, or if I was going to say I walk around the park, the subject in that case is the thing that is moving around in a circle. So for example, I could say 나는 공원을 돌아. And that's conjugated, and I won't get into the conjugation. It's a different type of conjugation that I have here, and I suggest you look at lesson 6 to understand the different conjugations. I didn't want to add this conjugation to this because it's actually an irregular verb, and it might confuse you if you've never studied irregulars before. It would actually be donda, and again, it's confusing. I suggest you read lesson 7. So I used a simpler conjugation. But in this situation, the thing that is spinning, the thing that is going around in circles is me. It's I. I go around the park, or I walk around the park, or something like that. But 돌리다, very similar meaning, but in this case, it's when a subject spins something, or when a subject turns something. And it's not the subject that's actually going around something, but rather the subject manipulates an object and spins the object. So for example, if you were going to spin some sort of pedal, or if you're going to spin something, you could say, and this is using the word pedal, pedal을, and you could say I, but back here I didn't have enough space, but 나는 pedal을 돌리다, 돌려. And again, it's a different this conjugation and this conjugation are actually the same, and it's not the same as these conjugations over here. But in this situation, what's happening is the subject, which is I, which would be over here to the left, I'm actually spinning some object. And in this situation, I am actually the thing that's going around in circles. Okay, so there's sort of two different things. Where this one is, they're both active verbs, but in this situation, it's actually the subject manipulating something, not necessarily with his hands, but it could be with his feet or something else. But I'm actually turning something or spinning something, whereas in this situation, it's actually the person himself or herself. And it doesn't have to be a person. It could be like the earth spinning around the sun. And in that case, you'd use that the earth is the subject, and the earth is actually going around the sun. In that case, you'd use 돌다. But if the earth could somehow spin something else, it would be 돌리다. So anyways, in this case, you're going to spin something, and there's no object immediately before this in this clause, and by that logic, you have to use the object in the previous clause. So this 발을 is used in this clause because we're using it to say that I should put my foot on the pedal, and then slowly spin something. And again, it's not the person, it's not the actual person that's spinning, but the person is going to be spinning something. So what is he going to be spinning? Well, he's going to be spinning his feet on the pedal. And if you can imagine, that's a very long way for me to explain that you're on a pedal and you're spinning around in a circle, or you're spinning the pedals around in a circle. This is actually, there's sort of another clause in here. This 면서 is actually the same meaning as 음야. And I in this lesson, I actually talk about 음면서 and 음야. And 음면서 is much, much, much more common in speech. And 음야 is less common in all situations, but you'd more likely see 음야 in writing, and you'd almost never say 음야 in speech. It's very commonly seen in writing and newspapers and stuff like that. And my first sentence that I start in this lesson, and I'll just show you the lesson number, lesson 62, The first sentence I say, 음야 is a shortened form of 음연사. In theory, 음야 can replace all of the sentences above, and the sentences above are all 음연사. And then I talk about how they're the same, and they could be slightly different, and I get into that a little bit later. But for a very beginner, you can essentially assume that they're the same. So, as I learned before, this is sort of to say that this is happening at the same time as this. So what you're doing is you're putting your foot on the pedal. You're slowly going to start, and while you start, you're going to be spinning at the same time. So you're spinning the pedal around and around and around in a circle. Okay, interesting. Now, this next sentence here, ihu refers to after that, or after this. Well, what is this? Well, it's referring to this, and that's what I means. And hu means after. So that's just saying after you're done that, after. Undong means exercise, and ryang, or yang, it could be yang or ryang, but what undong or what ryang means is sort of an amount. That's if it's just sort of used by itself. But if you say undongyang, what you're sort of talking about is your exercise ability. Or in other words, if you want to use ability, in other words, what you could say is if you want to use this word amount, is the amount that you could exercise. So after doing all this stuff, and 자신 means 자신 의 would be sort of your, or this particular person. And it's talking about you, basically. It's saying the person who's riding this particular thing. So after this, your particular exercise ability, and 조절하다 means sort of to adjust. Okay, and I see that same conjugation here, so I'm going to adjust something. And 속도 means speed. And so I can sort of see I'm going to adjust my speed. But what do I want to adjust my speed for, or in what way do I want to adjust my speed? Well, 맞다 means to be correct. And K, which is added to it, K, I talk about this in a lesson here, and in this situation it means so that. And what that, if I look at this whole sign, is you want to adjust your speed so that it is correct, and that's what 맞다 means. It's so that it's correct for your particular exercise ability. Okay, great. Now this next sentence down here, or this next little thing, it's going to be talking about 운동. I already learned means exercise. 운동하다 would mean to exercise, and 운동 just refers to the noun of exercise. And 효과 means sort of effects or benefits. Effects. Well, what is this? The exercise effects, or what are the benefits of doing this particular exercise? Well, what exercise is it? Well, as you can sort of see, it must be some sort of biking exercise, and I'll tell you specifically what it is in a second. 하체 here, ha is a very common hanja character that you see in Korean. It looks like this, and it refers to lower, or something like that, or something below something else. che, I could draw the hanja for it, and I actually know it, but it's going to take me forever to draw the whole thing, and I'd probably end up drawing it incorrectly. But this refers to body. I'll just write che, body, and I'll show you how confusing it is. It's actually a quite a common hanja character, but it's one of the, it's so good. Like, I mean, look how many strokes that would take to draw. I mean, I could do that again off of memory, but there's no way that I don't think I would get it right. So anyways, if I'm looking at my lower, and che refers to body, this is, hache means one's lower body. Kunyak, so kun is used in words to mean muscles. It refers to muscle. And ryak means power. And the actual word for muscle, like the word itself for muscle, is actually kunyuk. And so anyways, if I put kunyak, you're sort of referring to your muscle power. So here I have, and again, ui means sort of, it's sort of this meaning, the apostrophe s. So it's one's lower body's power. So if I say 하체의 근력, it's hache is lower body, kunyak is muscle power, but you can't just say lower body muscle power. You have to say one's lower body's muscle power to indicate that this is sort of an object that's owned by this particular thing. So your lower body's muscle power, and then, oh, look at this. This mya is actually the same mya that we saw up here. And it's the only reason why it's not mya is because in this case, ha ends in a vowel and chap ends in a consonant. So I can't just say chap mya. It doesn't come off my lips correctly that way. I can't say chap mya. It would sound like cham mya. So I have to say chap mya. But here it ends, the verb, the dictionary form of the verb ends in a vowel. So I can just say kang hwa ha mya. Kang means strength. And you'd see that in a very common word, kanghada, which means to be strong. And hwa means to change. To change. And the verb kangwa hada, if you can think about what strength and change together would mean, kangwa hada, kangwa hada, that would mean to strengthen. To strengthen, I can never spell strength. To strengthen, I think that's right in English. And I actually talk about the hanja for kang, and it's right here. Strengthen or strengthening is probably the best way to say the noun form, which is what I have here. Kang, that's the symbol for kang, and then hwa, that's the symbol for, or the hanja character for hwa. Bokbu refers to one's abdomen, and then your abdomen's jibang means fat. And then this is kind of a difficult word. Yanso hada or yanso shikida. Yanso refers to combustion. And sort of in the science sense where you're burning fuel and you're combusting fossil fuels or something like that. But you can actually say it's kind of in this one situation. If you say jibang yanso shikida, what you're saying is you're burning fat. So yanso, I don't usually typically use this word yanso or yanso shikida. Actually, the word yanso is on many people's boilers in Korea to indicate, like, there's a little light that will flash up next to yanso to indicate that the boiler is actually working to heat up water. So it's not really a word you would normally use because very rarely are you combusting something. But jibang or yanso shikida is something that's sort of more commonly said. And I would never say to combust fat. You can imagine if combustion is about burning, well, this is just burning fat. So that is the health or the exercise effects or the exercise benefits of doing this particular exercise. And well, one more time, what is it? It is, again, this means while. So it's while I'm strengthening my lower body's muscle power, and lower bodies, that just basically means my legs, by the way. If I ever go to the gym, and sometimes people at the gym will ask me, oh, what am I doing today? I don't really say tari to say my legs. Instead, what the common way to say it is, you would say, oh, today I'm doing hache, and that's indicating, oh, I'm exercising my legs. So as I'm strengthening my legs or my lower body, and again, while and as that's happening, you're also burning fat, and you're specifically burning fat in your abdomen. I don't know if I particularly agree with that. They probably just want somebody to do this particular exercise. I don't particularly agree that biking specifically burns fat around your stomach. I would argue that biking burns fat around your whole body and not specifically your stomach, but people always want to burn fat around their stomach, so that's probably why they say that. So anyways, if you haven't guessed so far, there are very many places in Korea to exercise outside. They kind of have these little outdoor exercise places, and they'll have little chin-up bars, and they'll have little things that you can push sort of as a bench press, lifting your own body weight. And there's all these little body weight exercises that you can do around Korea on these little things. And I happened to snap this picture on the instructions of how to use sort of a little outdoor stationary bicycle that I found. And again, if I break down or very quickly say the whole thing again, it's saying the way you use this, you sit down and hold the handle, you put your foot on the pedal and spin it slowly. I don't know if you need this sijakada. It says you put your foot on the pedal, you start spinning slowly as you spin it, but you don't really need the start here, even though it's there. After you spin it slowly, adjust the speed depending on your exercise ability. The effects of this exercise are actually you're strengthening your lower body muscles, and you're also burning fat in your stomach and your abdomen. Well, that was fun. I hope you learned a lot.
Like our sign videos? You can see all of our Korean sign explanation videos by clicking the link here. We also have a ton of videos showing various aspects of Korean culture, tourist areas, cuisine, and everyday life. You can go there by clicking this link here. You can also subscribe to our channel by clicking this button.